10 covert ways to spot emotional and physical stress in seconds. Hey, I'm Sarah from mostmotion, and I'm here with another video for every sports and fitness coach who wants to be able to help their clients feel great, avoid injuries, and get them best results they ever have. So this technology is a bit new to me, so things could go quite wrong right now, but we'll give it a try. So this presentation we're going to talk about today is ways to spot emotional and physical stress. And we're going to do that in 10 different ways. I'm going to go through those in a second. But the most important reason why you need to be able to spot these emotional or physical stress signs is because that is the biggest cause of injury. So if you want your clients or your participants to be able to avoid injury problems, then it's up to you to be able to spot these stress signs, because not everybody is either aware of them or going to tell you about them. So when you know what to look for and how to recognize these signs, it makes it super easy for you to make more effective coaching decisions earlier, rather than having to wait for somebody to tell you that they're having problems, which might take months or even years. So this is me. That's my dog Belle. I went to university to do PE teaching, failed that course, turned it into personal training qualifications, and then had injuries myself, was fascinated by injuries all my life. And so eventually, after about 15 years of avoiding therapy because I didn't really feel comfortable with oils and people taking their clothes off and rubbing naked bodies and stuff like that, I decided to go for the therapy route so that I could help people get past their injuries. So I use a method that is soft tissue based, but people keep their clothes on. I was quite pleased when I found that route. So I have struggled with my own injury problems. I jumped off a bench in my teaching degree when I was 18 because I had to do gymnastics. I'm like an elephant, so gymnastics was very hard for me, but I literally jumped straight up off a bench and dislocated my kneecap. And ever since then, I've had injury problems. Most significantly, I was physically assaulted in my early 20s, which strained my spine, and then a couple of years later was manipulated badly, which further strained the ligaments in my spine. And I jumped off. I was landed off a jumping kick in martial arts, and the bones in my ankle moved. So I've had lots and lots of nagging little injury problems myself. My body has been so sensitive to treatment that I can't actually have regular like physio treatment or normal conventional treatment. But what I noticed as I was going through my therapy journey, my own injury journey, is when you qualify to do therapy, they teach you to write SOAP notes, which are basically subjective, which is what your client is telling you. There's objective, which is what you're observing. Then you're assessing people, and then you have to write a plan. Basically, that's what SOAP stands for. This is where all of this came from. So I was observing what was happening with people, and they were telling me things that didn't necessarily match. So when they started talking about their pain, they would behave in certain ways. And when I started treating those behaviors rather than the words that they were telling me, then we started getting somewhere with their treatment, and they were amazed that I didn't do anything close to what they thought I would do, but their pain went away. So having come from a physical movement-based background, I then developed some movements, and most courses that you go through in fitness education don't teach you any of this stuff. So I found it really, really important to use those observations, and there's no reason why you can't do that either. So this is what I'm going to show you, the benefit of my experience. So we're going to cover all the signs of stress. Now, these have come from 36 different signs of stress that I teach in a course. We'll talk about that later. But I'm going to teach you 10 of them today. So we've got arms crossed, sitting with a rigid spine, standing with one hip out to the side, sitting with your knees far apart, legs crossed at the ankle, knuckle cracking, playing with a ring, neck stretching or cracking, leg rubbing, and foot tapping. So you can see already that these are common everyday signs that you see people doing, and you might not even notice that they're happening, but now you're aware of them, you're going to see them everywhere. So please bear in mind that we cannot separate the emotional from the physical, okay? these problems, if you have problems with one of those things, so if you're having emotional issues, it's going to create an increase in physical problems, but it's the same the other way around. So if you have physical stress, like you've had an injury, for example, and your body doesn't move properly in one way, that's going to create emotional stress. So it's kind of vice versa, and you can't separate them. So it's not like you can say, that's emotional, we need to deal with that this way. They are intertwined and we cannot separate them. So every single one of your participants is an individual with a lifetime of experiences that leads them to the lens that they are looking at life through. Okay, so if they've had pain before and you're asking them to move in a certain way, that's going to trigger the emotional reaction to that pain. They're not going to want to do that because that's the lens, that's the experience they've had, and that's what they believe. And those beliefs can stop your coaching results, okay, because they're not going to be able to do what you want them to do as effectively. So like I said, it's not possible to say that any of these signs of stress are just emotional or just physical. They are totally both. But the great thing is you don't need to know which caused what. All you need to know is that they are there. And when you can acknowledge that they are there, you can actually do something about it, which is great. So the first sign of stress is arms crossed. Now, I don't know if you've ever noticed yourself doing this. I do it quite a lot when I'm not comfortable talking to the person, or I'm really angry about something, or I'm just not feeling myself. Okay, so on an emotional level, it can be defensive or distancing. So I'm trying to separate myself or protect myself from the person or the people, the situation that I'm in. And that means that I can stand with my arms crossed, okay? But from a purely physical point of view, if you have rounded shoulders or your biceps are too short, then it's going to make you want to bend your elbows. And when you stand with your hands down by your sides and your elbows are bent, it's not a comfortable position for your body to be in. So your body will want to support your arms in some way. So you'll stick your hands in your pockets, you'll fold your arms in front of you, and that can contribute to that feeling of being defensive or trying to distance people. And it's just because your body's not comfortable with the amount of physical movement that you have. So, sitting with a rigid spine, people do this all the time. If you notice anybody in, I don't know, a coffee shop or on a bus or in a, wherever people are sitting down, then if you notice somebody who's sitting even absolutely rigid and their spine is very, very vertical and they don't look comfortable, okay? From an emotional point of view, this is part of the freeze response, okay? And it's a sign of psychological discomfort. But that psychological discomfort can come from a lack of spinal movement, okay? When your spine doesn't move very well, it creates this agitation. It's the only word I can use to describe it, really. Is an agitation that comes through the body, and it's like you don't really want to, you can't sit still. So when you are having to sit still, then a rigid spine can be a demonstration of that physical or emotional or both discomfort. So standing with one hip out to the side, I don't know how many ladies I see doing this, and just recently, I don't know where the craze has come from, but they cross that front foot right over the other leg as well. And this apparently on an emotional level is used by both men and women to get attention. If you see somebody standing like that, you're going to notice them more than if they're standing straight. So whether they want attention or not, this can be developed from a physical point of view in repetitive habits like carrying a baby, or if you're carrying the washing, or like I used to when I was personal training, I was mobile. So I would carry all of the weights and all the equipment that I needed in my left hand because I needed to lock the car door and knock on the customer's door and all that sort of thing with my right hand. So I would carry like 20 plus kilos in my left hand and nothing in my right hand. And over time, that develops shortening of the muscles. And on the inside of the thigh, if you have shortening on one side and you don't on the other, your body is going to naturally gravitate towards that shorter side. So it will make you stand in that way, even if you're not trying to get attention. Okay, so like I said, these things can be physical and emotional, But when you start to observe these things, you can find out what the stress is, and you can use it to apply that to your coaching. So sitting with the knees far apart, okay, you see lots and lots of men doing this, man spreading, okay. It is considered in most societies to be rude and inconsiderate. But from a physical point of view, if the muscles in the outside of your hip are too tight, and you can't move your hip sideways naturally, then that's going to create a natural spreading of the legs when you sit down, okay? Because your body always gravitates to the center of its range of motion. If the range of motion isn't big enough to allow the legs to go straight, then they won't. They will move to the center of the range of motion, wherever that is, and most of the time it pulls those knees apart. So legs crossed at the ankle is the opposite to this, and it's often associated with people when they're trying to restrain themselves, or they're not really sure about what's going on, or again, that psychological discomfort, that protective mechanism. We tend to gravitate to the center of our bodies. So our arms go across the front of our bodies, our legs go together, all this kind of stuff when we are not happy emotionally with what's going on. But from a physical point of view, if the muscles on the inside of your thigh and the front of your hip are very short, then you will result in crossing the ankles, because, like I said, the body wants to position itself where it feels most comfortable, it's least effort to be comfortable, okay? So knuckle cracking, you see this a lot in people, and some people think it's just a habit, but actually it is considered to be a stress reliever and a pacifier. And also from a physical point of view, it just demonstrates that there's muscle tightness in the hands. So if you see people doing it as a habit or something like that, then it's often because the tightness through the hands, maybe they type a lot, maybe they grip things a lot, and the tightness in the hands has just developed to the point where when you move the joints, they make a noise. So if your joints in the hands aren't moving properly and they're not free to move wherever they like, you will hear the sound of cracking when you move them. And sometimes that can feel like a release. Another one is playing with a ring on a finger, okay? Now, this can either be a sign of boredom, or it can calm nerves, or what I tend to find quite often is that it's a sign of that agitation through the stiff spine. And again, it can be tightness in the hands. It can be also a shortening of the biceps that we talked about before. So if you want to, if your arms aren't comfortable hanging straight, or you're being quite defensive about something, you want to put your hands on your arms closer to the center of your body, and playing with a ring is less obvious, it's less defensive than crossing your arms completely, okay? But it is a sign of short biceps, rounding shoulders, stiff spine, all of that kind of stuff develops into this fiddling with the ring, or just fidgeting generally, okay? So neck stretching or cracking, again, is often seen as a stress reliever or pacifier, and that is because those joints, the movement around the joints aren't easy to do. So it can create that feeling of just discomfort, general discomfort. You know, when you can't really put your finger on what's wrong, you just feel a bit off, okay? And generally in this situation, it can develop from an uneven tightness of the spine, okay, the muscles around the spine. So if you're definitely right-handed, and you're completely dominant right-handed, and you're involved in a game or a sport that is a throwing sport, for example, then, or even tennis, you know, if you're holding the racket in one hand all the time, you may develop more tightness on the, let's say you're right-handed, on the right-hand side of your body, and that is not matched on the left-hand side. And when that happens, it can develop into an unevenness through the back of the neck. And often when you move your head one way, it moves one way more than the other. And over time, this can develop into cracking, or just feeling like you need to kind of rub your neck. And again, from an emotional point of view, that unevenness in the body, or even just uncomfortableness with the situation, you'll see people stretching or cracking their neck. Leg rubbing. I have seen this so often I can't even tell you in the therapy room. Okay, when you talk about something that is uncomfortable to people, they will rub their knee or just above their knee or something like that. It doesn't have to be hard and fast. It's not. If you're the same age as me, if you're British, you will remember Trevor and Simon from Going Live. It's not that kind of rubbing. It's more of a gentle kind of, almost distracted kind of rubbing, but it seems that it's soothing to people under positions or situations where they feel high stress. Okay, but in my experience, when I ask people about their pain, or I ask people how they've been that week, and they're talking about something uncomfortable that's happened in their life, if they already have knee pain or they have had knee pain in the past, they will rub the area that has been sore. It might not be sore now, but they will rub the area that has been sore as a kind of a soothing thing. Okay, so if they're talking to me about, I don't know, how busy they've been at work, and they start rubbing their knee, I'll say, how's your knee been this week? Oh, actually, it's been quite painful, or it's been quite uncomfortable. And it's not something that they recognized. It's just that that subconscious, unconscious, however you want to call it, behavior that is demonstrating to me that the body is not comfortable. Okay, and again, it can be a lack of spinal movement, that agitation in the body, or just that rubbing of a familiar pain. So, foot tapping. This is often seen anywhere people are sitting down. Okay, and it's that repetitive kind of, I don't mean rhythmical to music or something like that. I just mean that you know, when you're sitting on the sofa with somebody and they start tapping their foot or shaking their foot side to side and the whole sofa starts moving, that kind of thing. Okay, it's that repetitive twisting or quivering. Okay, it's not rhythmical of any kind, and again, it's a demonstration of a restlessness, agitation, animosity, or irritation of something psychologically. But again, in a physical point of view, it could be a lack of spinal movement, which again creates that agitation, or a slight compression of nerves that may not be enough to feel painful, but it just creates that feeling of restlessness or not really comfortable with something happening. And the demonstration, the physical demonstration of that is foot tapping. Okay, so these signs that we have talked about today, all 10 signs, are signs of both emotional and physical stress that you can spot in seconds. So we covered arms crossed, sitting with rigid spine, standing with one hip out to the side, sitting with knees far apart, legs crossed at the ankle, knuckle cracking, playing with a ring, neck stretching or cracking, leg rubbing, and foot tapping. So you can find this and much, much more in a book called The Dictionary of Body Language. It's by an ex-FBI agent called Joe Navarro. It's really interesting because he's been spent decades and decades looking at the body language of people when they are uncomfortable in situations, because let's face it, in the FBI, they are trying to avoid capture, or they're trying to make out like they haven't done whatever it is that they have done. So the experience from an emotional, psychological point of view has come from that book. The physical side of things has come from my experience in my clinic over hundreds and hundreds of patients. So, like I said, these signs are often displayed without words and can happen in split seconds. So you might notice somebody doing something, like they might just do it for a second or two, like a quick rub of the neck and then stop. Okay, but your ability to notice these things will be the difference between what your participants think they want from their session and what they actually need. And when you know what they need, you can give them that in a way that they actually want, which is pretty cool. So if you want to learn more about this stuff, you can get the online training course called The Vault of Injury Prevention Secrets, where we will cover the 36 different signs of stress that you can see similar to these ones, and what you can do about it using my exclusive eyes, ears, ask, give strategy. So you can put those clues that you're seeing into fast action and supercharge your coaching value. So you can head to mostmotion.com/level-1 to grab that course if you like. So I'd be really interested to know what you think about what I've spoken about today. So if you have any thoughts, put them in the comments below, and I'll look forward to reading those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.